so it doesn't decompose. You drive you and Henry's body off the Sydney Harbor.
Somewhere on every big action movie, there's a person taking the actual hit, falling off the building, catching fire, flipping the car, while a movie star gets the close-up and the credit. This is the story of one of those people, a stuntman who nearly lost everything for the guy he protected, then got pulled back in for one more job that turns into the fight of his life. Stick with this one, because that final impossible jump near the end, it's not just a stunt. It's the whole story landing all at once. Meet Colt Seavers. For years, the stunt double for global action star Tom Ryder, the guy who actually falls 6 stories, gets set on fire and slams into concrete so Ryder never has to. It's brutal, repetitive, mostly thankless work, the kind where doing your job perfectly means nobody notices you at all. And Colt loves it anyway. Partly because he's built an entire identity around it, surrounded by a scrappy little found family of riggers, coordinators, and even a scene-stealing dog who's technically a co-star. And partly because of the woman working camera on set, Jody Moreno. Jody's got bigger plans than shooting other people's movies. She wants to direct one of her own someday, and somewhere between takes and near-death stunts, she and Colt fall for each other. It's easy. It's fun. For a while, it feels like the kind of love that can survive anything the job throws at it. Then, one afternoon, that theory gets tested. Ryder wants a massive fall reshot and asks for one small change. Land backward instead of face first, so more of his face reads on camera. It sounds harmless. It isn't. Something in the rig fails mid-drop, and instead of the clean landing Colt's done 1,000 times, he slams into the ground at full speed. His back shatters on impact, and for a long, terrifying moment on that set, nobody's sure he's going to walk again. He does, eventually. But the damage isn't only physical. It's the moment he starts believing he's become a burden instead of a partner, to his career and to Jody both. So he does what a lot of wounded people do. He vanishes. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence, aimed at the industry and at Jody in equal measure, because facing either one feels harder than disappearing from both. He stops answering calls. He lets the number lapse. 18 months slip by, and the man who used to fly through the air for a living now parks cars outside a small Mexican restaurant. Anonymous, until a former coworker spots him and can't resist a needling little jab about the reputation he left behind. The guy who took every hit and then quietly vanished from his own story. That anonymity doesn't last. Producer Gail Meyer finds him with an offer that changes his pulse instantly. Jody's directing her first film now, a sprawling sci-fi epic called Metal Storm, shooting in Sydney. And Gail says Jody's asked for him personally. For a man who's spent a year and a half hiding, it's an offer he physically cannot turn down. He isn't chasing the stunt work anymore. He's chasing a second chance he didn't think he'd get. Sydney greets him with jet lag, chaos, and one familiar face. Dan Tucker, his old friend, now the stunt coordinator running the whole production. The set is enormous, all alien landscapes and futuristic armor and green screen walls standing in for other galaxies, and there's no easing back into any of it. Dan throws him straight into a car roll gag, and whether it's instinct, nerves, or pure stubbornness, Colt doesn't just land it. He rolls the car 8.5 times, a personal best. It's a triumphant return to the job, undercut instantly by the one reaction he actually wants. Across the set, Jody won't even look his way. When they finally do speak, the truth lands cold. Jody never asked for him. She had no idea he was coming. And the script she's been quietly rewriting carries more than a little of her own unresolved anger. Scenes that read less like space opera and more like a message aimed straight at the man standing in front of her, the one who disappeared without a word and let her imagine the worst. There's a second reason Colt's really in Sydney, and Gail finally admits it. Tom Ryder has gone missing, tangled up with dangerous people nobody wants to name out loud, and the production is hemorrhaging money by the day. If word gets out that the film's star has vanished, the studio pulls the plug on Jody's directorial debut before it even gets a real shot. Gail isn't asking for a hero. She's asking Colt to quietly find Ryder before anyone else notices he's gone. So, alongside a search for a missing movie star, Colt keeps working. Stunts that include literally being lit on fire, take after take, while trying to hold a conversation like it's the most normal thing in the world. And, slowly, Scene by scene, he starts chasing Jody too. In the quiet stretches between takes, they finally say what 18 months of silence never let them say. That he didn't disappear because he stopped caring, but because he couldn't stand for her to see him broken, and that all she ever wanted was to be let in, not shut out. It doesn't fix everything, but it's the first real crack in a wall that stood between them for a year and a half. The hunt for Ryder drags Colt somewhere much darker than he expects. At Ryder's apartment, he's ambushed by Ryder's girlfriend before she grudgingly admits Ryder's been secretly meeting with drug dealers. A tip sends him to a club, all strobing lights and shoved bodies, where he's drugged before he can get a straight answer out of anyone. Stumbling through the haze afterward, he ends up at the production's hotel, and in one of the rooms finds something nobody was ever supposed to find. A body, packed on ice, cold, and still in a bathtub that should never have held anything like it. He's barely out the door before security cameras catch him leaving the scene, and just like that, he's not just looking for a missing man anymore. He's a suspect. With a corpse now in the picture and his own face on camera near it, Gale panics and tries to put Colt on the next flight home, insisting he's in over his head. He refuses. Not for the mystery, but for Jody. That choice puts him in the path of Ryder's assistant, Alma, who's been quietly holding on to Ryder's phone, the one piece of evidence everyone seems desperate to bury. The second she hands it over, Ryder's security team comes for both of them, sparking a full-tilt chase through the streets of Sydney that somehow ends in a standoff on top of a moving garbage truck. Colt survives it. What he doesn't survive is the karaoke night he misses because of it, and when Gale simply tells Jody he left, it lands like a second abandonment. Heartbroken all over again, Jody pours everything she can't say out loud into a song she never meant to mean this much. Back at the apartment, Colt and Dan finally crack the phone's passcode, scrawled carelessly on a forgotten sticky note, and what's waiting inside reframes everything they thought they knew. Buried in the footage is a clip from a drunken party, an intoxicated Ryder, sparring for fun, striking his own stunt double, Henry, hard enough to kill him. It isn't the accident anyone reported. It's a death that's been quietly buried while the production carried on as if nothing had happened at all. Before either of them can fully process what they're looking at, Ryder's men storm in, guns raised, and blow the phone itself to pieces. Dan gets out. Colt doesn't. He wakes up on Ryder's yacht, face to face with the man he spent 6 years protecting with his own body. And Ryder, cornered but oddly unbothered, hands him the entire rotten truth at once. Gale didn't bring Colt to Sydney to find Ryder. She brought him there to take the fall for Henry's death, using deepfake technology to erase Ryder's face from that incriminating footage and paste Colt's in instead. And the accident that shattered his back 18 months ago? No accident at all. Ryder sabotaged it himself because Colt, the double, the nobody who was supposed to stay invisible, was starting to get noticed. This is the moment everything flips inside out. The man Colt nearly died protecting was the one holding the knife the entire time, and he doesn't even have the decency to look sorry about it. Colt fights his way off that yacht with a stunt reckless enough to be suicidal, fire, a leap, a stolen boat. But there's no clean escape from what happens next. The doctored footage hits the news, and overnight, the world believes Colt Seavers murdered a man in cold blood. With nowhere left to run and nothing left to lose, he calls Jody, not to explain himself, but to finally say what 18 months of silence never let him say, that walking away from her is the only stunt he's ever truly regretted. Then the boat explodes. Gale tells Jody he's dead. For a moment, so does everyone else watching. He isn't dead. A man who's built a career surviving falls that should kill him doesn't drown in open water. He swims. Colt resurfaces, sneaks back onto the production in disguise, and finds his way to Jody's trailer to finally tell her everything. For the first time in this whole story, someone has every piece of it at once. The frame job, the deep fake, Henry's death, Ryder's jealousy, Gale's cover-up, and instead of running from it, the two of them decide to use it. If Ryder wants to keep pretending nothing happened, they're going to hand him exactly the stage to do it on, Jody's own set. Ryder returns to finish shooting Metal Storm's final scenes, convinced the danger has passed. He even agrees to do one stunt close-up himself, believing he's alone in the car, tucked behind the wheel for what should be a routine shot. He isn't alone. Colt is right there beside him, threatening to send the car off a jump nearly 250 feet high unless Ryder finally tells the truth. Wired for sound the entire time, feeding straight to Jody's crew, Ryder cracks, admitting to killing Henry, admitting Gale engineered the cover-up from the start. It's the confession this entire chase has been leading toward, and it's every bit as satisfying as it sounds. But a confession isn't the same as an ending. Dressler and Ryder's security team come tearing after them the second they realize what's happening, and the crew scrambles in real time, turning movie props and set pieces into actual roadblocks to buy Colt distance. Then Colt does what he's always done best, the thing that got him hurt in the first place, and the thing he's never actually stopped being brilliant at. He takes the leap nobody else would, launching the car clean across a canyon in one of the biggest jumps of his career and knocking Ryder out cold the second they land. It should be over. It isn't. Watching her entire cover story collapse in real time, Gale turns on the very crew that trusted her, fighting to get her hands on that confession tape before anyone else can hear it. A helicopter is her way out, Ryder in tow. So Colt does the only thing left, launches himself off a camera crane in midair to get on board. What follows is a brawl hundreds of feet above the set, ending with Colt tearing the tape out of Gale's grip and jumping, one more time, one last leap of faith, down onto a crash mat the crew had waiting in exactly the right spot. The truth is, finally out in the open, Ryder and Gale are exposed by their own recorded words, undone by the exact kind of manufactured moment they thought they controlled. Colt's name is cleared, not because someone else fought for him, but because he proved one more time that he was never the villain of this story. He was just the guy who kept absorbing the hits. He and Jody finish what they started, the film and each other, closing a distance that 18 months of silence had carved between them. In the aftermath, Ryder and Gale are taken into custody, and in one last piece of poetic irony, Ryder's own desperate scramble through the desert, chasing a phone signal that never comes, ends with him blowing himself up. It's a fitting final stunt for a man who spent this entire story letting someone else take the falls for him, and the film closes out with a warm, knowing nod back to the classic television series that started it all decades earlier. Strip away the deepfakes and the double crosses, and this was never really a story about a missing movie star. It's about the people standing just outside the frame, the ones absorbing every hit, every fall, every fire, so someone else can take the bow. Colt's real arc was never about clearing his name. It was about learning that the people who love you don't need you to be invincible. They just need you to stop disappearing when things get hard. If there's one thing worth carrying out of this story, it's that the bravest stunt was never the fall. It was staying in the room after he'd already been hurt. So, what stuck with you most? The stunts, the romance, the way it all folds back into that one final jump? Let me know in the comments, and if you want more breakdowns like this, hit like and subscribe because there's plenty more where this came from.